So, did you know that there is something within your relationship that is literally sucking the life out of it, slowly eroding the foundation of it, pushing you further and further and further away from one another? And yet, first, you might think, oh, it's the arguments, it's the insults, it's the lack of appreciation, it's the going back and forth. And granted, those things, yes, but those are more overt, right? You see that. We see the explosions, we see the fights, we see the arguments, we see people throwing things back and forth. We see all that. That's overt. I'm talking about covert, something that hidden is actually can be hidden in the overt, something that happens all too often, and we don't even recognize we're doing it. As a matter of fact, me as well at one point in time, right? It was so elusive that it was happening. I didn't even know it was happening till someone pointed it out to me. And so that silent killer of your relationship is defensiveness. That's right. Defensiveness. Those moments where you keep interrupting because you're trying to fix the details, those moments where you're trying to explain your point of view instead of listening, those moments where you're dismissing or invalidating your partner over and over again, those moments where you're trying to share when it's not your time to share, and you walk away from the conversation. And sometimes you think I won, or I defended myself, or I'm safe, or I'm protected, or whatever. You think that. But what actually happened was you started pushing people away. That's what started happening. You started creating blocks in your relationship. You started shutting pieces of your partner. They started shutting pieces of themselves down. They stopped opening up. They stopped sharing. You think things are getting better. You think because we're not arguing anymore that, oh my gosh, we finally arrived. But what you fail to realize is we don't argue anymore because I don't bring anything up, because I don't feel safe with you, because you're too defensive. Defensiveness is that silent killer in relationships, because you think that you're just trying to convey your perspective. You think you're just trying to convey your thoughts and your feelings. But in reality, all you're doing is dismissing your partner and focusing on defending yourself to keep yourself safe, supposedly. And what ends up happening is maybe you're safe, but your relationship is falling apart. And you look and you can't figure out why. You think, man, I don't understand why we can't connect. I can't understand why we just can't get along. It could very well be defensiveness. Very well be defensiveness. So before we even go even further, right? Because we're going to talk about what defensiveness is. We're going to talk about how you can cure yourself from it and heal yourself from it, how you can keep yourself safe without shutting your partner down. We're going to talk about all of that. But if you ever found yourself being defensive, all right, if you ever found yourself in that space, then this video, this live stream is for you. It's for you. Because if you can get a hold of how to stop being defensive, if you can get a hold on how to set yourself up for success in the future when it comes to conversations and save your relationship without losing yourself, if you can do that, and what you can if you stay through the whole video, right? This whole live stream, you can. If you take notes and actually put it into practice. So let's go ahead and hop into it. What is defensiveness? All right. What exactly is it? So I can tell you what it looks like. Right? I'll share with you what it looks like. It looks like you're interrupting every time someone's trying to talk. Oh no, that's not what I said. I said, oh no, that's not what happened. Oh, that's not what day it was. That's defensiveness. When they share their perspective, and let's just say you hear them out, and they share their whole perspective. When you immediately fire back, well, let me correct all these things in your perspective that were wrong. Because I didn't do that. You're remembering that wrong, and this and this and that, and I didn't say that. And that's defensiveness. You want to know what also is defensiveness? When they're sharing things that are accurate, and they're accurate, and you know what you do? Oh, woe is me. I guess I'm just the worst spouse ever. Oh, I'm just so horrible. Oh my gosh, I'm just horrible. I shouldn't even be. I should just leave. That's also defensiveness. In a covert way, because what you're trying to do in that form is you're trying to avoid taking responsibility, because that's ultimately what defensiveness is. Instead of me taking responsibility for my part in whatever this thing is, I'm now going to defend myself, protect myself, and find all the ways where it's not my fault and where it wasn't me, or you made me do it, or we're doing all of that. We think we're defending ourselves, but we're not. And more often than not, it's a nervous system reaction, probably learned from your childhood. I know when it comes to being wrong or being, those things like that, it's very easy to track it back to childhood. Because if you think about childhood, you think about what it meant to be wrong, what it meant to be blamed or accused of something or things like that, or have to take responsibility for your actions. It usually was paired with some type of consequence. Timeout, ridicule, feeling, silly in front of your classmates. There was some type of consequence. And so from that, what do we learn? Oh, I don't want to feel that anymore. So if I don't take responsibility, if I pass the buck, if I blame somebody else, or I become super emotional, I don't have to take responsibility, which means I don't have to get consequences, which means I remain safe. And so unfortunately, when we're younger, a lot of times that works. But when we become adults, and especially when we become in relationships with other people, it does not. As a matter of fact, defensiveness is one of the secret ways, and that how do I put it? It's one of those secret underlying ways where we actually push people away, and we don't even know we're pushing people away. When you become defensive, I want you to think of it like this. Anyone who's been in any boxing or things like that, if you are defending yourself, what's happening when you're defending yourself? You put your fist up and things like that, right? Keep your fist up, keep your fist up, keep your fist up. That's what they say when you're boxing, right? You're trying to stop an attack from coming in. That's what you're trying to do. The problem, though, in relationships is that there is not an attack coming in, especially if you have someone who can communicate properly. They're using I statements. They're sharing their perspective. It's not an attack coming in. You just perceive it as an attack because you're part of that. You're part of whatever they're talking about. So if they're using I statements and say, hey, when you came home late last night, I was sad because I really thought we were going to have the evening together, and and I didn't hear from you. And so then the evening was ruined. I would really love if you just communicated with me, if you're going to be late so we can plan accordingly. What did the defensive person do? Well, I got to work. I don't know why. I got to work. And sometimes they hold me longer. And I don't know why you can't just be more understanding. Don't you know how much I do for this family? And don't you know how much I do for this relationship? And this, and this. I completely and totally dismissed. That was my wife. Dismissed her concerns. She felt sad because she thought we were going to have an evening together, and now we can't because I came home late. Reasonable. Makes sense. She was excited. She wanted me to be there. I wasn't there. She's sad. She just wants to be kept abreast of the things that are going on. But what do? We do exactly what I just did right there. I start defending myself. It's how it's okay for me to be late, and I don't have to, and you should be understanding, and this and that. I'm pushing all the responsibility away from myself. And then maybe she takes this one on the chin. Maybe she takes it on the chin. But what if it happens again and again and again and again and again? Now all of a sudden, she's late, not late, she's okay with it. And now I'm having a problem. I don't know why she's not into me. I don't know why she doesn't want to be intimate with me. I don't know why she doesn't want to talk to me and connect with me. Doesn't she know how much I do for this family and how much I sacrifice and all this stuff? And she can't do this? Still being defensive. Still being defensive. Because I'm not taking any time to realize, dang, you know what? Maybe she's not connected to me because I've been dismissing her this whole time. Maybe I should have been listening to her and hearing her out when she was saying that she missed me and she loved me and she just wants to spend time with me and wants to cultivate the relationship. Maybe I should have been more focused on, oh, hey, we haven't spent a lot of time together recently. You know, I'm starting to feel disconnected. I'm starting to feel like, well, you know, we're not on the same page. Maybe I should have been focusing more on that than focusing on defending myself. Because see, here's the thing, guys. When we spend all this time defending ourselves, all we're doing is pushing other people away. That's all you're doing. Maybe you think you're trying to save face in front of this person. You're not. You're not. Because they weren't attacking you in the first place. They didn't have a negative perception of you in the first place. See, you're treating your significant other as if they were the people back in the day that caused you the hurt and the trauma and all those things like that. That's what you're treating them like. Oh, if they bring anything up that has to do with me, it's got to be an attack. So I got to defend myself and I got to prove my point. And I'm not going to stop until I prove my point or get them to agree with me. And all you're doing is pushing that person further and further and further away. Now they don't want to connect as much. Now they don't want to talk as much. Now they're not open up and sharing anything with you. And you think everything is great. Oh man, it's so great. We haven't argued in such a long time. Promise you right now, when you here's a red flag in relationships. Here's a free one, right? A red flag in relationships when your significant other never shares any of their thoughts or emotions with you or feelings with you. That's a red flag. Because we're supposed to be able to share our thoughts and feelings with the person who's supposed to be closest to us. So if you find that the only conversations you have are logistics, or you find that you're the only person opening up and sharing and they're just like empathizing, like, I hear you. Yep, you're right. Okay, that's hard. That's rough. But they never do that with you. That's a big red flag. That should tell you that I don't trust you. I don't feel safe opening up and sharing with you. And some of y'all, your spouses have said that. Some of your husbands have said that. Some of your wives have said that. And instead of you being like, dang, really? Babe, why not? Why don't you trust me? Like, what happened? What took place? You might ask that question. They might be scared to even open up and share that. Because like, dang, okay, if I share this, it's probably going to be a fight. I don't know if I have the bandwidth for that. But then you start opening up and sharing, essentially because I feel like I have to fight for the right for me to have my thoughts and my feelings and my emotions. I have to fight every single time for it. Because there's so much defensiveness. I don't feel heard. I don't feel understood. A lot of times I don't even feel safe to open up and share that. You know what they'll say? I'm fine. I'm good. No, I'm okay. I don't have any problems. I'm good. They're learning how to cope with someone who's being defensive. And you're wondering why your relationship can't go to the next level. You're wondering why your intimacy has fell off drastically. You wonder why they don't really want to come home. You wonder why they sit in the car for 30 minutes before they enter the home. You wonder why they don't come to bed the same time you go to bed. You wonder they don't want to eat with you. You wonder why they're not excited to spend time with you. You wonder all those things. Defensiveness. Because you're sitting there confused as to what's going on. And I'm telling you right now, this is the silent killer. One of the horsemen of Gottman's horsemen, this one is a silent killer. Because you think things are good, but they're not good. Your significant other is just disconnecting from you, and you can't tell before it's too late. Before they're gone, they serve you with divorce papers and like, I can't do this anymore. You're like, where did this come from? I don't understand. It's like, yeah, because of course you don't understand, because you didn't listen for all these years. You didn't listen. You didn't listen. They were trying to tell you. They tried to tell you multiple times. But because you were so stuck in your trauma, so stuck in your past, so stuck and being scared that someone was going to hurt you, that you couldn't take time to listen, now they're gone. Now they're with somebody else. And now you're living with regret. Or some people are steadfast and be like, yeah, well, I know it wasn't me. They were the problem. They should have opened up. And they should have tried harder. Okay. You can keep thinking that, but you're going to be alone, and you're going to be sad, and you're going to be depressed. You're going to be wondering, why does nobody like me? Why can't I get a good relationship? Why are all these other people coming around that I don't really want to be with? Defensiveness. It's not good. It's not good at all. So now we broke it down as much as we could break it down, right? As much as we could break it down, right? Now, how do we beat it? How do we overcome it? How do we do things different when it comes to defensiveness? All right, first and foremost, and I have to say this, you've got to take personal responsibility for your actions. I cannot stress this enough. Not for things you didn't do. I never, ever, 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 ever want you taking responsibility for things you did not do. If your partner is making up stories about things, well, you were out at the club last night. What are you talking about? I literally was in the garage working on the car. What? That's not true. That's different. That's different. But if you came home late, own that. If your voice was raised, own that. If you spoke out of turn and said something that was out of pocket, own that. Just take personal responsibility. I'm telling you, there's going to be so much freedom. You're going to feel so much freedom once you recognize that the lies that they told when you were younger, that if you mess up and you own it and you get in trouble and that no one's going to want to be around you, you're going to be rejected, and there's going to be all these consequences. Once you eliminate those lies from your mind and start taking responsibility, there's a freedom that takes place. Because now you don't have to be perfect anymore. You don't have to protect yourself anymore. You don't have to defend yourself like that anymore. You can just be yourself. And if you do something that causes hurt or anger or frustration in your partner, and they say, hey, this is what happened, you can say, oh, babe, my apologies. Didn't mean to make you feel that way. Sorry about that. I know that came out wrong. My bad. You get to share your perspective. I had a long day. My mom wasn't in the right place. So when you would ask me about that stuff, I won't even think it. My apologies. I'm sorry. And then you're going to watch your partner feel safe. You're going to watch your nervous system deactivate. You're going to see them just all of it just melt off of them. You say, oh, yeah, well, I appreciate you. You're going to see the arguments start going down and disappearing so quick simply by taking responsibility for your actions that you've done. That's it. You just got to take responsibility for the actions that you have done. That's it. That's one of the best ways to eliminate defensiveness. One of the other things to check in as well. Ask yourself, where is this coming from? What is causing me to be triggered in this way? Because, yeah, I'm listening to them, and I'll even share my story real quick. So I remember one time me and my wife were having a conversation, and it ended up going into an argument. And she said something that was like an accusation or something along those lines. And the way I responded defensively. But here's the crazy part. I didn't even think I did it because I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I didn't do anything like that. It wasn't derogatory. I wasn't interrupting, nothing like that. And then we were in therapy, and then the therapist said, "Oh yeah, Keith, that's defensiveness. Remember that one thing happened to you when you were a kid with your father, you know? And so now when you're accused, you're blamed of something that triggers you. You remember that? You told me that?" I was like, "What? I didn't know that was defensiveness." So I'm saying, like, silent killer. I didn't know that. I had to learn something about myself. And so for this second thing, you need to learn about yourself. What are your triggers? What are the things that make you want to stand up and fight? What are the things that make you want to put the shield up and the armor up? What are the things that shut down you listening to understand and then open up you listening to respond? What are those triggers? What are the things that set you off? Is it blame? Is it accusations? Is it tone? Is it volume? Is it certain words? Is it a certain look? Like, what are your triggers? Learn yourself. Take time to learn yourself. Learn those triggers, because once you learn those triggers, guess what? Now you could be aware. You could share that with your partner, because your partner is not trying to trigger you, but you can share it with your partner. Let them know, hey, when these things happen, I get triggered. And unfortunately, when I get triggered, I get activated, and it's hard for me to listen in those moments. So if you could just do me a favor, and if you could just not say you, right? Use I statements. Or if you could not make any accusations or blame, or if you could, whatever it is, let your partner know what your triggers are. Learn about one another so that you don't have to worry about getting triggered. The third thing, learn to regulate your emotions. Learn to regulate your emotions. Our emotions move faster than our logic. It's milliseconds in difference, but that makes a big difference. Because if you could slow things down just enough, you could respond accordingly. You could spend more time listening. You can let them get the whole thing out, the whole thing, before without responding. But you got to learn how to regulate yourself. I recommend breathing strategies. For me, my practice and my work, I always recommend the 3-4-7 breathing technique. And this is where you breathe in for 3 seconds, where you hold for 4 seconds, and you release for 7 seconds. Pause for 1 second, 1 to 2 seconds in between breaths, and then rinse and repeat. Right? This calms the nervous system. You got to practice it so you can learn to calm the nervous system so that you could respond accordingly. And when you breathe once, your nervous system knows, boom, we need to be calm. Also, grounding techniques. Now, there's all types of different grounding techniques. Personally speaking, I like the just having something to touch, something that's tactile, something that has texture. And what this does is, as you're touching that thing, you're describing the texture, you're describing the feeling in your hands, and whether it's rough or smooth or textured or whatever it might be. And what this does is grounds you in the moment. Instead of you being transported back to a previous trauma or a previous issue, you stay present in this moment so you can respond to their concern that they're giving to you right there and then. So that's the grounding. And there's also other things you could do. You could also look for things that you could see, things you could hear, things you could smell. You know, we already talked about touch and taste. Maybe if you have some gum or something in your mouth or something along those lines. Usually taste isn't as reliable because usually we can't just go around like licking things and putting random things in our mouth, right? So if you have like gum or something like that, then yeah, maybe you could use taste. But those other 4, touch, sight, smell, hearing, you could use those. And again, what that does is it takes you out of your emotional mind and puts you into your rational mind. It keeps you mindful and allows you to hear and receive what the other person is saying. And something else as well, I want to tack this on. This is more of a bonus to taking personal responsibility, is make sure as much as possible you do not play a victim role to avoid responsibility or accountability. So what I mean by that is when you start becoming self-deprecating. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but you become self-deprecating in the moment to get them to abandon their thoughts and their feelings and their emotion so that you don't have to take responsibility, right? So we have to make sure that we're not doing that. We have to make sure that we are staying present in the moment. We're owning our behaviors and we're being respectful to them and listening to them and hearing them out. You empathize and you validate their concerns. Doesn't necessarily mean you agree. You don't have to agree. You might only have to agree on the details. I'll tell you another quick story. I remember one time me and my wife were at a bowling alley for my son's bowling thing. And there was a woman that was to the right of me, and my wife was to the left of me. I was standing up, they were sitting down. So we were talking or whatever, made a comment, said something, and then I guess the woman heard it and she said something to her, whatever, right? And later on after the game, my wife's like, oh yeah, you can't be touching other women and touching, touch them like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? She said, oh yeah, you touched, so-and-so's mom's shoulder when you turned around and talked to him. And I'll be honest, I did get defensive. I was like, I didn't touch anyone's shoulder. I didn't touch anybody. And she was like, yeah, you did. You did touch your shoulder, so on and so forth. Right. So we're going back and forth, not arguing, but going back and forth. And I had to stop myself. I had to, okay, hold on, Keith. Wait a minute now. Now I know I didn't touch her shoulder. All right. Touch is very, very, very important to me. It's my number one love language, all that stuff like that, right? I'm very tactile, I'm very sensitive to touch, things like that. If I touch somebody, I know I touched somebody, right? Kind of like Jesus knowing the hem of his garment was touched. Like I know if I touch somebody. I didn't touch anybody. However, once I grounded myself, once I took a step back, I took a breath and I took a step back, I was like, okay, what is the real message behind what she's saying? The real message is I value our relationship. I don't want anyone to come in between us. That's what's most important. So the touching was just a avatar for the meaning of the message. And so I told her, hey, listen, all the touchy stuff aside, I get where you're coming from. I understand. You want me to make sure that I'm very careful about my interactions with other women because you care about the relationship. She was like, yes, that's it. Done. Right. I even validated her concern. I even said, hey, and because after I said that, I said, hey, and I can understand why you would think that I did touch her shoulder because I was standing up and I was talking with my hands and things like that. So I can understand why you would think, or how you come to that conclusion, why I would have touched her shoulder. I get that. I can understand that. That's not me agreeing because I did not touch her shoulder. That's just me saying I could get how you could come to that conclusion because you're right. I was standing up. I was talking with my hands. She did look over. I did, my hands or things like that. Makes sense. I get it. Right. And she wasn't chastising me for it. She wasn't anything like that. But what I had to do in that moment, right? I had to shift from, okay, wait a second. Okay. It's an accusation. However, I know it's not true. Also, however, going back and forth isn't going to solve the problem because the real message has nothing to do with this at all either. Anyways, I got to get to the real message. So we got to the real message and solve the problem. Now, I'm telling you right now, if you would have caught me, many years ago, then that would have been a blown out fight. Guaranteed. Maybe not in the bowling alley, but we would definitely want to talk the next day. I would have been like, you're lying on me. You're making stuff up. I don't know why you're doing that. You're crazy. This, that, blah, 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 blah. You're jealous. I mean, it would have been a whole thing. And all of that would have been defensiveness. All that would have been defensiveness. And we wouldn't have talked for days, and it would have been a whole thing. But because I was able to stop, take responsibility, okay, I could see how she got there. And I also understand the message. I'm down with the message. I understand what she got there. Boom, done, right? That's it. I don't have to convince her of my perspective or what happened. I don't have to convince her of that. My job is just to understand her, understand where she's coming from. That's it. And that's also a secret, guys. Your job in communicating because she was a speaker. I was a listener. My job was to understand where she was coming from. That was my job, and that's what I did. And so if you're in that position, because generally speaking, the listener tends to be the one that becomes defensive. So if you're in the speaking position, remember, yield the floor, let them speak, empathize and validate, ask questions if you need more clarification, summarize and confirm back to them, and regulate yourself, regulate yourself, regulate yourself so that you can engage in the conversation and so that you can actually meet their need and help them and understand where they're coming from. Got to regulate yourself. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it, guys. And I will say this, I'll definitely be trying to come out with some more live streams and videos and things of that nature. I know a lot of the videos I've been putting out right now are more like geared towards like men and things of that nature, but I'm also gonna be putting out these relationship videos as well. I'm gonna be doing more of these live streams. I'm gonna be breaking them up, chopping up the content, getting it out there for all those who maybe haven't seen it. But if you want the full recording, you can always go back and look at it on YouTube, or maybe any of the other platforms as well that actually keep the live recording going. So, but yeah, guys, defensiveness. Just take responsibility, guys. Don't let that destroy your relationship. Don't let defensiveness erode a good thing. Root it out. Find it. Take responsibility every time, every single time. Take responsibility. 100%. And now actually I think about it, I'm going to say that for another one. I know the description talked about boundaries and things like that, but I know we've already gone for a good bit of time. We're going to talk about that as well, because there's a lot of questions that could possibly come up like, well, Keith, what if they are accusing me? What if they are telling lies on me? What if they are misreading the situation? What if they're trying to manipulate me? What if all these things like that, right? Am I not to be defensive? We're going to talk about that, because that's going to tie into boundaries. It's going to tie into not taking things personal. It's going to tie into all of those things. So I'm going to make another live stream for that. I may have a video for that as well, to help you how to navigate those situations. And I'm also going to have another video, another live stream or video that's going to talk about it from the perspective of the person who's speaking, right? Because that's also important. Like if you're speaking and someone's being defensive, how to deal with that situation. We're going to talk about that as well. Again, it's already been like 30 minutes or so. I don't want to overdo it. And plus, I already said I was going to be wrapping it up. So listen, definitely come back. Definitely stay tuned. Got way more coming your way as far as relationships are concerned to help you guys make sure you have the actual science-backed proof, evidence, strategies, and skills to improve your relationships. Also, I just want to say this as well. We also have my resources, right? And so I've recently had some workbooks made that can help you with communication, that can help you with processing old issues in your relationship and how to keep your finger on the pulse of your relationship. And we're going to talk about boundaries as well. I have a whole workbook for that. If you could look at my social media handles, it's going to be there. It's going to be it's got it on Amazon. We'll put the links in a lot of different places. They're not there yet, but stay tuned. I'm going to have them in different places as well. And so yeah, everybody, that's it. And I'll just say, listen, you're not alone. You're not alone. And there's hope for your relationship. You got to put the work in, but there is hope for your relationship. All right. Y'all take care. Have a great